Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I've got Nickolas Gilbert with me in person across the table. Hey, Nick.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. All right, so your introduction is going to take me like a minute or two.
Okay.
Because I've got to go back in time. Well, first, this is your second time on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You were here, episode 239, March 1st, 2022. And that was because your film Nailed was in the 2020 festival. Filmvasion LA, right?
That's right. Yeah, feels like just yesterday.
Well, the funny thing is that was right. We were stuck on online.
That's right. Yeah, it was a COVID time.
Because it was June 2020. And to bring up the bad memory for everyone listening, in March something happened and we were like, well, we'll probably be able to have the festival in 3 months. And then we had to figure out how to have an online festival, but we did. And then the cool thing was 2 years later, once life was normal, you came in and I got to meet you in person, which is excellent. So people, if they want, they can go back and listen to an interview from 2022 of you on this very podcast.
Yeah, I think that was before my voice changed, so it might sound a little different.
For sure. You hit puberty.
Puberty came late for me.
You had a very late puberty.
It's true.
Very late puberty. But you are back. It's funny. You know what's hilarious is, as I know we emailed and I talked about seeing a theme in your work, there's also a theme in the titles.
Yeah. But not all of my work falls into that. Just kind of the shorts that I've been making. But I make things in completely other different genres as well.
You do. You just don't send them to our festivals.
Well, they're big, and a lot of them are historical and take a lot of research and would be very expensive to make. So unfortunately, I haven't made a lot of those yet. So it's a lot of writing and working on getting that stuff made.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, that was all to set up that you followed up Nailed in my world with Petite Mortimer, which people better understand how Nailed and Petite Mortimer.
Yeah.
It's funny. See how I'm struggling? Because I want to say Petite Mort, but no.
Exactly.
So anyway.
Well, I'm glad you said it because I'm surprised at how many people don't get the joke on the title. They aren't familiar with the original phrase, La Petite Mort.
Which is, fine. Well, you want to say it?
Yeah, sure. It means the little death, which is the French way of saying having an orgasm.
Having an orgasm, which every American, when they learn that, is just like, holy shit, they associate orgasms with just a little death.
That's right.
And somehow it does work.
Yeah. But I'm surprised at how many people, a lot of people get the title and get the reference, and then other people don't. And then I've seen people hear the term after they've seen the film and then make that connection and have a little chuckle. So I really enjoy like seeing that aha moment in people.
I bet. And I recall from, I didn't do your Q&A, but I believe I was sitting there for your Q&A. And you did this as part of one of those film chases, right?
Yeah, so La Petite Mortimer was originally made for the CFC, which is the Collaboration Filmmakers Challenge. And I didn't really know if it would have legs in play because at different festivals and with a different audience, because it was very much made for that festival. And that festival has some very specific parameters. It's not a 24-hour film challenge, but it is a 2-week film challenge. So you hear a quote from somebody famous, and then you have to integrate it thematically, or another way into what you create in 2 weeks, from prompt writing to delivered cut. But the thing that's great about it is I've never done a 24-hour film challenge, and I probably never would. And I was really resistant to even doing a 2-week challenge because, really, you make impulsive decisions. Right. There's not enough time. It's not safe. There's a lot of people who are running from project to project and staying up for 36 hours in a row to cram it all in. But there's something that's really, really great about that festival, and that is the collaboration aspect. And so in that festival, you are required to collaborate with the people that you're actually competing against, and they are required to help you. So the people that started it had this great idea that there's so many people in Los Angeles and around the country all wanting to make films, but so so few of them are actually sharing their resources and helping each other to do it. So they came up with this idea of having a collaborative filmmaking competition to bring everybody together. And I've done it a few times. I've placed. This is the first year that I won. So La Petite Mortimer won the Civil Award for advancing.
I'm giving Nick a golf clap.
They won the Civil Award for advancing human respect in media, which is kind of the top prize at the festival, which was great. And I've actually done it before and met people that I've ended up working with in a professional capacity as well. So, you know, it really does make sense, and what they're doing actually plays out in the real world. So pretty happy about that. But in order to make something in 2 weeks, you really have to make it in a specific way. And for me, it's economy of expression. It's looking at these creative limitations and using them to your best interest. So you lose a lot of time with a lot of characters, with a lot of locations. So I was really thinking about, how do we just strip this down to the bare essence? And for me, that's limiting locations, limiting the number of actors. And I went as far as to eliminate all of the dialogue. But so what does that leave us with? It leaves us with breaking, you know, that core truth of show, not tell. We're using voiceover to really tell the story. On the surface, I think if you get rid of all the voiceover, the story still makes sense. So the idea was to shoot it all on a soundstage, so we don't have to move around, limit it to just 3 characters. But we didn't want it all to take place in one location with a locked-off camera. So that's where the idea of shooting it in front of a screen happened. So it's not composite, it's not green screen, it's all shot in front of a short-throw projector. And it looks terrible, but that is part of the joke, right? So we kind of could have made it look better. We could have matched the contrast between the live action and the characters on the screen better. But part of the joke is not trying to pull one over on the audience. That's why I chose really early on to shoot off the sides of the projector, let the audience in on the joke so that they wouldn't feel like we're trying to trick them and just have it end up looking bad. But then the big question comes, now that we're making something with this creative limitation, does that make sense to an audience that isn't privy to those creative limitations? And that's why I wanted to take it to festivals like this, you know, and put it in front of a different audience and see how they responded.
And our jury, the Filmmakers Board, which I believe you're familiar with.
Yes.
It's a jury of alumni, chose Le Petite Mortimer for Outstanding Originality in a Short Film Comedy.
Yeah, it's great.
And I got to admit, you did something brilliant, and I'm sure you've heard how brilliant this is, but you throw in those shots where we see the projection screen.
Yeah.
And then that's a wonderful way just to tell the audience, we didn't green screen this. It's not, all the backgrounds aren't AI or some shit like that. Like exactly. You're not trying to pull one over on people.
Yep.
And amusingly, I will joke quarrel with you because you said you called it a joke. I think it's an aesthetic.
It is.
Like it definitely feels like a choice.
It's definitely a choice.
Yeah.
You know, it does. The creative limitations that we were working under became stylistic or aesthetic choices, right? And that's what I was really curious about. Do these choices just work for people who know the circumstances under which it was made, or do they become a universal aesthetic? Think about it like going into a museum, right? If you walk into a museum, you see something that's very abstract that's on the wall, and you look at it and it maybe has some appeal, but you don't quite get it. And then you read the placard on the side of it. And after you read the placard, then it makes sense and you see it through a different lens. I think that's important and it's interesting and there's a place for that. But when you're working in a visual medium, there isn't a lot of time, especially that we don't have cover boxes and DVDs, and most of the time people might not even see the poster. What do you do when there isn't a placard to read? Right? Does it still have legs if there's no information? Does it still resonate with an audience who isn't privy to this inside information? Does it hold its own just on the visuals and on the narrative context? So it's great to hear that it worked.
It absolutely holds its own, and besides the fact that I didn't know until I saw your Q&A that it was part. By the way, I love that program because 2 weeks. Honestly, it's almost like 2 weeks of going back to film school for 2 weeks, where everyone collaborates and works together. It's such a great idea.
It is. It's wonderful. And for a lot of people who are in the crafts, and I'll throw acting into that, it's a really great opportunity to work on a whole bunch of projects in a short period of time. Well, past the fact that well, I'll just say you have to do it responsibly if you're going to do it, right? Don't stay up for 2 weeks without sleeping about what's going to affect your acting and your driving. But it's a really great opportunity to practice the craft, right? And that is one thing that we need more of in this business, is just the opportunity to practice without having gatekeepers there giving us permission to do it.
Right. And even though it's not the ideal situation for you, someone who can make shorts, it also, right, it's like, you know what, I'm going to take 2 weeks and make another movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like it gets you off your ass. It gets you out of the home office.
Yeah. Well, and resources come with it because there's collaborating. So I often work as a colorist and do some editing, and I ended up this last season coloring like 4 or 5 shorts for people, and so they get all professional level color work done for free on their projects. All of my team volunteered, so I get a bunch of crew that's going to come and help out, and they get to contribute to it. They get to practice the craft. They get to walk away with stuff for their reel. So it's a plus for everybody as long as you don't try to take advantage of it and cram too much in, right? Which I bring it up, and I'm kind of hammering that point in because I do see a lot of people who are doing it the first time who go crazy, right? They drink a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid and they're in it and they're going to go. And there hasn't been any real accidents that I've seen, but I can sense that if people aren't careful, it could happen.
It's unsafe, but also odds are the results aren't wonderful either.
Right.
When biting off more than you can chew is not wise.
That's it, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was I going to ask? So I wanted to ask about the writing of it.
Mm-hmm.
So did you write it like in one day? Like, did you get a prompt and then have to?
Yeah. So I can't remember exactly it was an Ayn Rand quote. I don't remember exactly what it was. I wish I did, but we could look it up. Yeah, I wrote it in a day, but that's not fair because as a writer, you have to be in a position, or at least I do, or at least my process is always being open to catching ideas when they come. David Lynch wrote this book, Catching the Big Fish, which talks a lot about this. He really gets into it kind of from a meditation standpoint and how do you open yourself up to that. But there's another part of that is once you're open to the big ideas coming, if you don't capture them and write them down, they're going to go away, right? If you don't throw your fishing line in the water, that fish is going to, just keep on swimming. So you have to have a system that's in place to capture it. So I'm always open to ideas, and when ideas strike, I write them down. And different people have different ways of doing that, and I've done it different ways. But what works for me right now is very simply, I just have an Apple Notes document that's synced with all of my different devices, and wherever I'm at in this day and age, I always have one of these devices with me, right? And then I write it down, and it's organized into film titles, which I could read some off of if you want, because some of them are pretty good.
Sometimes that's what you start with,
That's
right?
what you start with. So, I had the idea La Petite Mortimer as a play on La Petite Mort, but I didn't have anything else to go with it. But then over on the character page, I have these characters written out. Over on the concept page, I have this idea of a sausage going into a bun, right? And so when the prompt comes, I'm not trying to write something specific to the prompt. I'm taking all of these amorphous ideas and putting them together that I already have and putting them together under the new theme. I think that people who would try to write something based on the quote when it comes out and having a day or two to write it aren't going to be very successful. One, because they'll be stressed, and it won't be an organic, creative approach to it. But two, I don't think it would be honest because you're reacting to the quote rather than telling a story that's organic and germane to yourself that you want to tell, right? So I would, recommend everybody figure out what your system is for capturing ideas, and you'll be much more successful in implementing them.
And then I was also wondering, just in this example, because you knew exactly how you were going to shoot it, I believe, did you write standard screenplay format, or were you just writing like narrator's voice and image?
No, I wrote it
like
in
a
standard screenplay.
Standard screenplay.
Yep, absolutely. But another trick that we didn't talk about before is it is voiceover driven for a reason. And that reason is because all the voiceover can be re-recorded once we're in post. And we didn't, so the script was more complex than what we actually got. There was some side plots and a little bit more character work. But we ran out of time and we didn't get it. And then the story didn't make sense with the voiceover that was written. So even though we only had 2 weeks, I probably rewrote the voiceover 4 or 5 different times, and I recorded the voiceover myself. So that's me doing the narration and then using 11 Labs voice changer to change it into the character's voice.
Yeah, seriously, it does not sound like you at all.
Yeah. What's AI?
I'm in shock.
Changing it.
I was going to joke with you. I'm like, how come you didn't ask me to?
And this might be a good segue into, the AI discussion that everybody is having, right? And so, as a filmmaker who makes his living as a filmmaker, at least working in the film business, am I scared of AI? And yes and no. I think using it as a tool is something that's really good. And so if we just prompted in 11 Labs what the voiceover should be, I think it would have been terrible. But using a real human voice to actually record it and lay down the cadence, and the timing and everything really, really helps it move on. So AI is a tool, not AI is something that's doing the job for you.
That's actually what we say to everyone who, you can imagine how many emails the nonprofit gets now that runs the festivals that go, do you accept films with AI in it? And the answer is always, if you use it well, we won't know, but the answer is we're open to it. Yep. And believe me, there's a big difference between someone who uses it to enhance their VFX budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
And someone who uses it. Ooh, geez, sorry about that. Yeah. For, you would laugh so hard at some of the shorts I've seen where like it just cuts from like the back of the head to the back of the head because they can never show the speaker because in AI you can never get.
Yeah,
like I've seen some really terrible animation, and you just watch it and go, "Yeah, see, this is an AI generated video by someone with no skills whatsoever." Whereas, but there was a wonderful film that was nearly in the last festival. I was actually arguing for it, but I don't always need to be a bully. But it was actors in front of it, and then they did generate the backgrounds with AI, and they were honest about it, and it honestly was beautiful. They did a great job. So it's not that all AI is bad.
Yep.
And there's obviously a big difference between an indie filmmaker using AI to create a gigantic wall that people that ancient warriors are fighting in front of. That's the one I'm talking about. Oh God, I just gave it away. Whereas, and the people I know, I actually met people who were scanned for a Hollywood. They were extras in a Hollywood movie and agreed to be scanned before the AI boom.
Ah, yeah.
And now they know that. I guess I won't name the film in the studio, but the guy directed E.T.
Yeah.
And so his company has 3-dimensional scans of these extras, and we'll never have to pay them to use them because they agreed to let them. They said, yeah, you can scan me.
Yeah.
And so they can now fill in a stadium full of AI background actors.
Yep.
And that's different. That's
100%.
so different.
Yep. It really is. Yeah. So in this use case scenario, we didn't have time, and we couldn't afford a real actor to do it because it's a zero, budget film. Not really, but close enough, right? So it isn't a question of where does that money go when there's no money, right? If I had the money and I had the way to do it differently, would I do it differently? A lot of stuff, the answer is yes, but then other stuff, no, right? I mean, part of it, like we were saying earlier, when does a forced limitation turn into an aesthetic choice? So the real question is, could the same process be applied effectively to another film made in the same way, right? I don't know, right? Is the joke funny the second time? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally thinking to ask you, would you even want to do this way, or you've done a film this way, and you'll try other things next time because you're a very experimental person.
Yeah. So the idea of shooting on a screen is not new to me. It started with a neo-noir detective comedy I made called Through the Smoke Screen, completely black and white, very low, not a no-budget film, but we were making it as a self-funded pilot for a series that we unfortunately never got off the ground, but we did make the pilot and got it out there and got some interest, but didn't turn it into a full-budget series. But of course, in a classic TV detective show that we're lampooning, there's always the bad rear screen projection when they're driving. And so we're like, we absolutely are doing this. And we got some old plates that were actually shot in LA in the 40s and, you know, put our detective and our femme fatale in the car and shot him. And, you know, the steering wheel doesn't correspond at all with what the driving is happening. And it was fun. And then we needed to shoot in a film vault, and we couldn't get into a film vault with the budget that we had. So we're like, well, let's get a shelf and let's get some film cans and let's use that as a foreground element, put our actor in the midground, and then just keep doing the rear screen projection for the background. And this is before LED volumes, and it isn't tracked to the camera. But if you're not moving the camera, you don't need to track it. You can sell it. And especially when you're lampooning and doing a spoof, if it isn't great, that's all kind of part of the fun. So I've been doing stuff like this for years. But La Petite Mortimer was the first time that I really felt bold enough to actually shoot the full thing on a stage just in front of a screen.
Yeah. And I guess I'll ask, like, was it part of the 2-week period shooting the backgrounds too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we
Yes.
just went out to Griffith Park and, you know, on the bikes that you see we took a GoPro and did a GoPro rig on the handlebars and shot both ways and shot sideways and just spent an afternoon shooting the plates.
Oh, cool. And then you use a projector, and then you get the aesthetic of the projection.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because it looks refreshingly non-digital is, I guess, what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
organic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very organic, analog. These are words that people our age enjoy.
I mean, technically it's digital because
Technically,
it was a
GoPro's
but-
digital. That's true.
Yeah, but it has an analog aesthetic.
Yeah,
You
it
say
does.
that, yeah.
And I guess it was a digital camera, a digital projector, and digital.
Digital was
but it was in
involved
the
in-
real world.
yeah.
It was you could see it
Yeah.
behind the actors,
Yes.
which must have been interesting for them to act in front of that
Yeah, I mean,
versus act in front of nothing. Although I
yeah.
guess they're facing cameras, so they don't really see.
yeah, I mean, it's not like you're shooting on a volumetric stage where you have a ceiling that is an LED panel and a curved wall behind you, where you're getting the true reflections from the light and the actors can see it all around them. It's not that. It's a like 6x9 screen that they're usually facing the other way. So they at least get a sense of what it's going to look like if they turn around and look at it, you know, or see playback immediately. But they don't have that full immersion, you know, feeling like you would in a real volume.
True, but they didn't need it because they knew what they were doing, and they
Absolutely.
knew this was a fun story.
Yeah.
About sausages and bread.
That's right. The eternal rivalry.
I mean, heck, I would think his mustache alone established the aesthetic,
Yeah, for sure.
right? Because you're like, if someone had brought in a perfectly realistic mustache, you would have said, no.
Okay, you ready for some mustache trivia?
Yes.
Okay, this is the true behind the scenes. So we didn't realize it until like take 4, but he was wearing the mustache upside down the entire time. And then we realized it. We're like, well, we can't change it now unless we go back and shoot the first 4 setups. So we're just going to run with it. So the entire time, the mustache is on upside down, but it works perfect. I think it's even better upside down.
Yeah, it makes it more handlebarly.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. See, now I got to watch it again. I did watch it before you came over just to refresh my memory. And now I just got to watch it for the mustache trivia.
Yeah. And who would have guessed? You know, fake mustaches have, you know, ups and downs. Who would have known? Who would have thunked it?
Yeah, I would assume they would. But, you know, especially the French. But anyway,
Yeah, oui.
I wish I have like 3 words.
And 2 of them are we.
Yeah. So besides our festival, and technically I believe we got credit as your LA premiere.
Yeah, because the CFC is a private festival, so the people
Right, like the screening is just the people involved.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not a public screening. So this was the LA premiere.
Oh, nice. And has it been elsewhere now?
It hasn't. No, it has not played anywhere else. I sent it to just really a small handful of festivals, not really knowing the answer to that question of will it resonate, you know, with audiences beyond the CFC. So I didn't send it out to the 100 festivals like they say you should.
They really say you should spend
Depends on who you ask.
a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
100 festivals.
I don't know if it's 100, but you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that quality of festival is more important than quantity of festival.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
And when I don't even want to. I shouldn't even dive down the. I've learned how much some other festivals charge, and it just makes my brain hurt.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what are you doing to people?
Agreed.
Like everyone wants to get into your festival because of the size of your name.
Yeah.
And I guess that is supply and demand, but Lord, that's somewhere like over $100.
Yeah. You know, and I think about it in terms of this astronomical fee for a big festival, but what did Sundance get? Like 13,000 submissions? So somebody has to watch all of those submissions, or at least watch part of them, and you assume they're getting paid, or they wouldn't be quality judges on some level, you know, or they're vetted in some way. So supposedly that fee is going to cover those costs.
I'm sure they have a lot of costs, but they also raise a lot. I don't know.
I know. Yeah,
I don't even. Yeah, needless to say.
One. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to pay those fees. I'll say that just on the record.
Yeah, and I'll add, as far as you're talking about whether or not it played. I mean, I will add that I'm a fan of yours, obviously, and I love that the jury. I love that the jury was like, I love that this most recent film became an official selection. And then when I saw you get the award, I admit I thought to myself, I love that we have juries that like get it.
Yeah, me too.
Because
I love it.
Because I'm aware that I have a quirky sense of humor. You have a quirky sense of humor. So I was like, I was thinking the same thing, honestly.
Right.
Will it resonate? And then
Right.
people loved it.
Yep.
It's always like, that's a fun thing that people don't know about being a film festival runner is, you're leaning, you're sort of vulnerable with your jury and your staff, like, because you were like, people, if someone says like, I don't like that movie, I'm like, you're saying I don't do my job right.
Oh, yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
way
Like
to think
I'm
about
a little sensitive sometimes.
Yeah.
So I just love seeing juries and staff just respond to all the great films we show.
Well, I think the jury's great, not just because they selected my film, but from looking at the programming over the years, and I know the jury changes here and there from year to year, but I mean, it's been great programming. And, one thing with short films, at least in my mind, and we talked a little bit about practicing the craft, but it's also an opportunity to experiment and to make some bold choices that may land or may not land, but you wouldn't be able to experiment with big budgets or when you're playing with somebody else's money. And a lot of festivals need to program things that are more commercial, right? Because they need to get people in there, and there's a certain aesthetic, or commercial sensibility that they have to meet because they're beholden to, getting enough people to go to the festival to support their extraordinary cost. But festivals like this that are smaller and that really, believe in the filmmakers can go with bolder choices, can program bolder films and noisier films. So I really appreciate that about the festival.
Thank you. I mean, we've been joking. I've joked for years with the people I work with that, we're an experiment. We're just seeing if quality can survive, because I look at the programming of other festivals all the time, and I see films we rejected, and I say, oh yeah, that's that film that sends you the email that says like, we have 50 to 100 people dying to see this movie, and like it sucks.
Yeah.
But other festivals are so smart because if you have one recognizable actor, they'll put it in the festival.
Yep.
If you have a cast of 20 and they know, oh, that's 20 people and their girlfriends and friends, it's in the festival, Mm-hmm. I mean, believe me, it doesn't make me happy knowing that, like we show at the December festival that you were in, Sherman Oaks Film Festival, we had a film from Bahrain and he didn't fly out. And we turned down films that were shot in Glendale, like within blocks of the theater. Yeah. Like, it's not good capitalism, but we care about the art. We care about the film. So
yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I mean, there is so much politics that goes into it. And for listeners, if your film doesn't get into a festival, that doesn't mean your film's bad, right? And here is the evidence, right? It just may not resonate with the festival for some of these political or economic reasons.
Yeah, we have one juror, although she hasn't been on the jury for a while. But I did know one filmmaker who would literally say to me, I can't take getting in as good because I can't take not getting in as bad. So she literally, and I was actually going to say, based on what I just said about like, just because you get into such and such festival, it actually doesn't mean, But if you get into Sherman Oaks Film Festival or Film Vision LA, it means you are good because we literally only care about quality. Like, it could have zero commercial potential, but if it's great, we're going to show it.
Yep, which is amazing. Wish more festivals were like that.
And somehow, now our inside joke is we call it rewarding the idealism, because like people are traveling now.
Yeah.
Like we had people from Europe and people from New York and
Yeah,
Florida
I
and
met some.
Nashville.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
like I keep thinking, look, when I program a block and I'm like, oh my God, there's one local film and like 2 from New York and 1 from the South. I'm like, Jesus, that's an empty house.
Right.
And then they make it and they invite people. I'm like, oh my God, huge.
Yeah, wonderful.
I'm like, reward the idealism.
Yep. And it's really interesting just to think about it as a filmmaker, and to hear these stories is great about what goes into programming, what goes into building blocks of films. It's not just what thematically fits together, but it's how is it going to work with the audience in the theater. It's important.
Well, and I think I love a block that's eclectic.
Yeah.
I love to start with your comedy,
Yep.
and then throw in something sci-fi, and then end with a tearjerker. It just tickles me to no end when every once in a while, like someone's parents come up to me in the lobby and they go,
Oh, no.
I didn't know how good short films were.
Oh, great.
I didn't even know there are short films. Like, cause the normal person, like I thought my kid was crazy for making a short film. And I went to 2 blocks today and they were both great. They were all great. And I don't even like horror and I like the horror movie. Like, it's so rewarding. It's really
it
fun.
certainly exposes people to stuff that may be out of their preferred genre.
Yeah.
But it also prevents all the comedies from comparing themselves to each other, right? Or all the dramas comparing themselves to each other. It's smart programming, too.
Is there anything more trying than 4 comedies in a row? I mean, I'm sorry. Like the 4th one is not going to get the laughs it deserves.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to wear people out.
Yeah. No
For
question
sure.
about it. And tear jerkers. I mean, you can't cry for 2 hours straight. You just can't do it, no matter how good the film is.
No, it really is nice to have a mix. The one thing that you can go hard on is like art house, because like they're all so different anyway.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But if I did an all art house block, then I'm really getting self-indulgent. But we're talking about the festivals instead of you.
Oh, yeah, right.
But that's okay, because by the way, I guess I should mention that because I normally have people give their life story and how they got into filmmaking, but we did all that in 2022. Although I wish I could say I remember your story.
I wish I could remember my story, too. I probably made it all up.
Yeah. But do you want to talk about the other parts of your career? Because you mentioned...
Sure. Well, I'm at the point now where I've made a lot of shorts over a number of years, and not many of them have been, the first scene of a feature, or feed into a feature. There's never going to be La Petite Mortimer, the feature film. Okay, now there has to be. But I do a lot of feature writing. And so rather than concentrating on making more shorts that are just an opportunity to practice the craft and, let people know what I can do, I'm spending more time writing feature length and series things at this point in my career.
Right, because you've done enough shorts. Is that why?
Yeah. I mean,
it's time for a feature. Like
it is. Yeah. It's shorts should stand on their own, and I love making them, and I'm glad that there is an audience for them. There's not really, aside from Discover Indie Film, and some things like that, there really isn't a viable commercial market for shorts, right? So you're making them for the joy of making them, or as a calling card in order to make something else. And once you spent a lot of time and to learn and to develop your craft and to get the experience of practicing your craft. But I've got a reel. I've done it. I've been around the block a number of times, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to make any more shorts. I certainly am. But the goal isn't to make shorts. The goal is to make more longer form things. But I know I'm going to get the itch and have to scratch it. It's not like I'm done with shorts.
Yeah, you will write an idea into your notes app.
Yep.
That tickles you so much, you're like, well, now I have to make that one.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen.
Because you'll see it. You'll see it.
And if writing is a lonely pursuit, right? And a lot of the stuff that I write, feature length, is historical thrillers based on true stories that take a lot of research, which is also kind of a lonely pursuit, right? So it's also an opportunity to go out there, practice the craft, do something social, right? And get out of that groove of being by yourself and working independently as an artist.
Are you a history nerd?
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, I don't have the right to call myself a history nerd, but back like during COVID, during lockdown, I read like 2 or 3 history books. Like it's weird that history becomes preferred reading when like I couldn't take history when I was in school.
Yeah.
And I read like SPQR, like a history of the Roman Empire,
Yeah, that's
like
great.
from start to finish. And it was like
I love that
1,000
stuff.
pages. I love that
Yep.
book.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, so I found a little bit when you said, am I a history nerd? Other people might call me that, but I'm just interested in people, right? And so when I hear stories about people that have done amazing things, and by amazing, I don't mean necessarily huge, big things, but unique and special, and that somehow have had an effect on the culture or have been socially impactful, or just absurd, I start thinking about them, and sometimes, the truth really is stranger than fiction. So I get drawn into these stories. And sometimes it ends up being biopics, but after I've written a couple of those, I really am now starting to gravitate more towards inspired by true events than actually writing biopics. I like the freedom of having a little bit more room to move around the truth to tell the better story, right? When you're working in the historical genre, there's always that fear. It's not a fear, it's factual that people are, no matter what you write down, people are going to come back and say that's not exactly how it happened. And well, no, but it makes a better story, and the emotional truth is real, right? So you can't always go for the factual truth, go for the emotional truth.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And then it's very funny to me, some history things I'll see and I'll be like, they just changed it. They changed history, and it's less interesting than the real story.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, for some reason, well, I won't name the streaming service, but there's like a streaming service that every historical thing they do, they get wrong. And then I'm on Wikipedia reading, and I'm saying to the person next to me in bed, this is interesting. Listen, this is the real story.
Yep.
I'm like, how they take truth and make it less an interesting truth, and they made it a boring fiction.
Yeah. Well, you just hit the nail on the head on something. One of the reasons why I'm so interested in history is that sleuthing, right? I really like the idea of going in and doing the research to figure out what really happened or why it happened or how it happened, like to unearth that little nugget of knowledge, right? That little bit of story that people haven't heard before, It's really interesting to me. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And so you've written a handful of these.
Yeah.
Right. And just shopping them around and whatnot.
Yep, trying to get them out. As an emerging features writer, it is the worst genre to be working in, because they're period pieces. They're expensive, right? But I always try to sell. Well, that's the response that I get all the time. I don't necessarily think it's true. Like Peaky Blinders, for instance, they say, what was it? It was only like $2 million per episode. Of course, it was shot in England, and it's a show that's existing, so they can, put the cost of the sets over the whole season, right? But when you say historical period piece based on true events, 1930s period, people think it's $100 million project, but it's not. Especially with the tools that we have now, we can bring the budgets way down.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also a tried and true genre.
Yeah,
I mean, I want to jokingly call it Oscar bait too, right? Like couldn't you? I mean, when the Oscars come around, I've always heard the joke that best period pieces are going to beat out everything in the modern day just because everyone's so impressed that you did it.
Yeah, could be. I mean, a lot of historical pieces have won.
For sure.
Yeah.
It just feels like an Oscar movie when it's set in the 1930s or earlier. Yeah, for sure. There's a little film called Gandhi, I remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but
great film.
And distortionfield.tv is still your website?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the company website.
Yeah, that's a company.
Yeah. Personally, it's nickolasgilbert.com.
Gotcha.
With a K.
I was trying to open the door for you to talk about Distortion Field if you want.
Sure. Distortion Field's a production and development company. We do things of all different sizes. The goal, of course, is to be making, huge feature films. But a lot of the work that we do ends up being smaller stuff, some branded stuff, some corporate stuff, and anywhere from, script to screen. So sometimes I'll come in as a consultant. Sometimes I'll come in as a crew person. Sometimes we'll do, from script to screen the entire project. Sometimes it's just post work with editing and color.
Right. But what do you call it? Turnkey?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
we can.
Any aspect.
Yeah. Which is terrible branding, I'm sure, but that's the truth of it.
Welcome to my world.
Hard times in Hollywood, folks.
What do you do? What do you do? Pretty much everything. You know, whatever you need. What do you need?
Or we can get real fancy and say we're multi-hyphenates.
Well, you are a multi-hyphenate, that's for sure.
So are you?
Because all indie filmmakers have to be.
Yeah. I always say it like this when people are talking about smaller budget projects. Every hat has to be worn, just like it would be on a big budget production. But you can always wear more than one hat at the same time, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, well, it's always funny to me as a juror when if I see someone's name 3 to 4, maybe 5, 6 times before the film starts, I know it's not going to be a good movie.
Yeah.
Because if you wear 6 hats, you definitely only want to tell the audience about maybe 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
In the opening credits. At the end, you can have fun and put your name for catering and shit if you want. But come on.
Yeah, come on. So La Petite Mortimer has no titles. It has 1 page of credits, and my name's only on there as the writer and director. None of the post stuff that I did is on
Right,
there.
yeah, because you don't have... You're not walking around LA desperate to tell everyone, "Hey, look what I do! Look what I can do!"
Exactly, and it's assumed if no one's credited as the editor, right? The filmmaker is editing it, right? You don't anybody that's going to put their name on the screen that many times has an ego issue, I think.
Agreed. And if you have ego issues, odds are, I mean, I guess it's possible, but at this level, the people with ego issues don't make good films.
Yeah,
all the ego films I see are rarely high quality.
it's interesting to know.
Yeah. Although I was going to say something and I forgot it. I lost it.
Well, it's something that I've noticed that there's. I hate to throw people into 2 different camps, but in Hollywood anyway, there seems to be people that want to be in the film business, and then there's people that want to tell stories, right? And sometimes you can be both, but a lot of times it's people that want to be in the film business but don't necessarily care about the craft or telling the story in the best way that they can.
And you said it a lot kinder than I do. I wouldn't say they want to be in the business. They just want to be important, and they feel like this is an important business. And I want people to know who I am. I always got a kick out of being in a long time ago, and I was a young person who would meet other young people in bars, and you meet someone, and then, oh, I'm in film too, and they'd say something along the lines of, well, what do you want to, what are you working on? Well, I want to make a really great film. And then I want to have an office on a studio lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so this really great film, is there a genre? Is there a story? Do you have a story to tell?
Yeah.
No, they just came to LA because, I don't know. There was something psychological going on that they needed people to know who they are.
Yep.
And I imagine it works out sometimes, but most of the time I would assume it's a hard hill.
Right. Or people change and they learn, right? There certainly are the people who are seduced by it being an important thing to do, but then once they are exposed to what it actually means to be a filmmaker, they turn around, right? And they say, well, wait a minute, I do have stories that I want to tell. I've seen that happen as well.
Without that, and exactly, it's all about the storytellers, for sure. For sure. It's a storytelling medium.
Yeah. So the question becomes, how long do you think filmmaking will be an important thing to do?
In reference to the modern day and technology, and I mean, I have a bias. I think it will last forever. Iterations may change, but I do believe that Homo sapiens. I always talk about the campfire. That when we were hunter-gatherers for hundreds of thousands of years, we gathered around the campfire at the end of the day and we shared stories. We saw our shadows on the wall, and then we started writing on the wall. And our brains are made for, our religions are just a series of stories. Our brains were made for storytelling. I actually believe that we run a film festival because that is the campfire, because watching a film at home alone on streaming is one experience. Watching in the theater with other people and then discussing it and having filmmakers come up front and talk about it. That's the campfire. So I think filmmaking will always exist. I pray it doesn't become mostly vertical.
Yeah, gosh, me too. Well, I mean, I think that you have to make a separation between storytelling and filmmaking, right? I think that story will definitely always be around. I mean, filmmaking has only really been around for 100 years, and you know,
That's true. Will cinema? So you mean will cinema go away? Will the movie theater experience go?
Yeah,
be
I kind of
unsustainable.
Yeah, or even this 2-hour long story, right? Is that even the form? And I mean, it's an existential question because, you know, we've been in this place before. I mean, everyone was saying the same thing when we moved into talkies, and when we moved into widescreen, and then when television was coming, then VHS, and then streaming. But fundamentally, we had a storytelling tradition before cinema, and that was vaudeville. And when cinema came along, it absolutely killed vaudeville. Didn't kill the theater, but it did kill vaudeville. So is generative artificial intelligent tools going to be another cataclysmic or fundamental change that ushers in a different era of storytelling? Or is the practice of cinema as we know it, in whatever form, meaning a physical cinema or, you know, a home cinema that still plays 2-hour stories or serialized stories in, you know, whatever format, going to exist? Or is it going to be replaced by some other fundamentally new form of storytelling?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought because, I mean, I'll bring up the obvious thing, which is you ask someone to watch a 2-hour movie and they're like, ask them to binge 6 1-hour episodes of a TV show in one night and they'll do it.
Yeah, good point.
So the fact is now the 6-hour story, which actually it is nice to dive deeper with the characters in the story too.
There are some great things about long storytelling.
But if you pitched a 6-hour historical film, you'd be laughed out of the very room in the world.
Probably.
Whereas if you pitched a six 1-hour episodes of a mini series, as they are starting to call them again.
Yeah. Limited series.
Yeah, limited series. Yeah, mini series was way too broadcast.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is too, I do love how streaming set free lengths. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if you got to see it, but at Sherman Oaks we had that 1-hour animated feature, The Storm.
No, I didn't see it. No.
It's truly amazing.
What style of animation is it? Is it like hand drawn or is it Pixar?
Oh, it's digital. A digital animator made it himself over 7 years.
Wow. Well,
at home in Fresno, California.
That's amazing.
While doing other jobs, obviously, but he got his degree in animation and he just saw this film in his head and he made it.
Fantastic.
And it's brilliant.
How long is it?
Well, it's 60 minutes exactly.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was trying to encourage him. I was like, look, I know everything in those worlds, a long shot, but I don't see why you couldn't release this theatrically in the new world. Like, what, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, should I throw a stone at Scorsese for making everything too damn long now?
You could. Well, you could talk about Sinners too. Wow, that film has so many endings. I mean, it's not just him.
I like the ending. I like
the ending.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It did take a while to get there.
Yeah. It's not Lord of the Rings multiple endings, but it did feel like it could. Anyway, well, I'm not going to criticize.
I almost brought up Lord of the Rings too, but yeah. but I was saying in reference to what you were saying, maybe the 2-hour movie becomes really rare.
Right.
But I think the cinematic experience might last, although real estate.
Yeah, for real.
There's a lot going against it.
Yep. Well, and cost. I mean, I'm not a film economist by any means, but I can do simple math with my fingers. And if it costs $150 million to make something, and then another $150 million to promote it with P&A, that's a lot of seats that you have to sell tickets for. But if generative tools bring the production cost down in an ethical way, maybe you don't have to sell as many tickets. You don't have to appeal to such a mass audience.
Even if it's unethical, it might work for the studios.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
You make me wonder if the answer will be to to cut loose the laws that prevent the studios from owning their own theater. Like they own.
They already did. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Paramount decree's over.
Yeah, so because the old model was the studio owned the theater and they could just stick their film in there and cut out a middleman, and that might help, because Lord knows, I got some scary news last week, which is Look had, where we rent Look Cinemas, Glendale.
Yeah.
They had 4 in California. They're closing 3 out of 4. Glendale's the only one surviving.
Oh, that's rough. Wow.
Yeah. And I actually think, I don't know, but I'll share with you, and this is just my own thought, which is the others were more like Inland Empire-ish, whereas in Glendale, they can have a film festival every weekend.
Yeah.
They have a film festival every. So I think actually the film festivals might be keeping them alive. Because we bring in people. First of all, we rent the theater, so we four-wall it. Yeah. So now they don't have to worry about selling tickets. You know, when we come, we rent 3 screens at once. You know, I think most of the others are 1 screen. But then they sell food to our patrons, and they charge a lot of money for that food.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, like, maybe the film festival is the only reason that theater is going to keep its doors open.
Oh, that's interesting to think about. I have to counter though, since we're talking about theaters closing. Did you hear Kristen Stewart, the actress and now director, bought the Highland Park Theater? Yeah. So
she's following like Mr. Tarantino bought the New Beverly. And,
and the Vista. But yeah, so she just bought it, and you know, she's putting, I don't know, millions of dollars into fixing it up, and it had been closed for the last couple of years, I think. So while maybe the multiplex is dying, the 1920s movie palace that can have more art house programming, for lack of a better term, maybe is coming back. You know, or the cinema as a center of something.
I mean, it's almost like a museum, right? It's almost I mean, it's almost like the fact that that newspapers need a billionaire to fund them now.
Right. A
billionaire who thinks there's a value to newspapers.
Yeah. Or thought there was a value to newspapers.
This is a weird moment to talk about that, because it just became an issue just this last week. It's like, wait, why can't you keep? But yes, but that is wonderful, and Lord knows that's my fantasy, that someday one of Sherman Oaks Film Festival or Filmvasion in Los Angeles' alumni will get that 7-picture deal and turn around and go, "You believe me when I was nobody. Here's my tax write-off. I'm gonna do more with the festival." You know what I mean? Like, because the arts need patrons and always have. But yeah, so maybe cinema becomes more like, art.
A nonprofit model rather than a for-profit model?
Nonprofit model. Or I was just thinking, you know, like more like visiting a museum. like you would go to Kristen Stewart's, the theater that Kristen Stewart keeps alive because she can afford to.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like we need the Getty to go look at Greco-Roman art.
Well, it does ask a question that I think of now. Is the New Beverly and the Vista, Tarantino's theaters, are they profitable on their own, or is he supporting them as a filmmaker? I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah, they might be, just because the cachet of his attachment to it and how many fanboys he's got.
True. And he does have really good programming. I mean, he's playing some great films.
Well, and he's super loyal with everything's actual film print.
Yeah.
Which is nice and nostalgic.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be happening without him and his draw.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If just an unknown rich person was funding that theater, it might not have worked at all.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone goes there thinking, hey, maybe he'll be here. And he's still on people's lists. He is. Although I do love when a filmmaker comes in and for the overrated, and I am a Tarantino fan.
Oh, I am too. Yeah, huge fan.
But when someone sits down and goes, "What's overrated?" Everything Quentin Tarantino's done, I go, "I respect you. That's your opinion. I'm a fan, but like I get why it wouldn't work for you. But you know, he's my age. What am I going to do? Not like him?"
Yeah. No, I'm a true fan. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a very sophisticated film. It's really, really well done.
Oh, a lot of them are. And then sometimes he does something on a lark, but they're good.
Well, indeed.
Are we going to do 4 questions for you again?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
I even
that's with the notes.
I did my homework and I have notes.
Excellent. And the funny thing is, you may have done it long ago. And I used to when the film festival was like smaller, I had more time for stuff, and I would, on the discoverindyfilm.com website, I would actually put people's answers in. So I might have.
I don't remember.
I don't have your answers from last time.
I certainly don't remember.
So you're number 240. So I probably stopped after the first 100 or two, but
could write an AI agent to go do transcripts of everything and then pull it out.
I know. Actually, the funny thing is, I think that exists. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't have to bore everyone with the technical details, but I'll tell you afterwards. But there might be transcripts actually. Free ones.
Yeah.
Because one of the services it gets distributed to. Who knows?
Yeah.
But fair enough. We'll I'll leave it to you to listen to. The funny thing is, my phone, right? We're Apple guys.
Yeah.
My phone, they did an update to the podcast app, and now it tries to create a playlist for you at times.
Oh, that's...
Sometimes it'll auto, so I have ringing in my ears. So I I have an AirPod in my ear when I'm in bed sleeping. And sometimes I'll wake up to the sound of my own voice. It'll autoplay Discover Any Film. And I'll be like, this is a really interesting conversation. I don't even feel like I'm in it. I feel like I'm listening to other people.
How transcendent.
Isn't that weird?
That is
so crazy.
It might freak me out, actually.
Silly thing for me to admit. But yeah, I'm like, wow. Yeah. Yeah, that person's really interesting. Who's talking to? Is that me? Because you don't even sound like yourself, right?
Yeah,
when you're outside of your own skull.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, anything we should mention before we wrap it up? Any notes that you come and do I have anything? Is there anything we have both quit social media.
Correct.
So
yes.
So when you were on this podcast in 2022, we mentioned your Instagram, but I guess we don't have to mention it now because you're kind of done with it. Kind of stepped away.
I mean, it's still there, still lurking. If you want to send me a DM, you can find me on Instagram. In a decade or so, I might get back to you.
You might see it. Yeah, yeah. And anything else in my notes? I'll just share that. Yes, when people book this podcast, yes, I'm going to share your joke. that I said, please share any additional info you want me to know before our chat. And Nick said, I'm afraid of being afraid.
Well, there you go.
And that made me laugh. And then when I said it just now, it sounded dead serious. So I just killed your joke.
Yeah, it's all about the delivery.
It's all about the delivery.
All right, so you want to hear my 4 questions?
Yeah, we can do it. We can. You want to throw it in? Sometimes normally it's a separate podcast, but we can do it in one.
It's up to you. I don't care. Whatever you think is best.
Fuck it, let's do it. I haven't cursed yet either. Finally, it took me 57 minutes to say fuck.
Nice.
I mean, it's normally like the first word.
Well, you can always dub it in at the beginning.
I guess you're just so classy. You bring out the classy in me.
Well, all right.
All right, go for it. You want to name 3 favorites?
Okay, so I'm sure these would change if you asked me tomorrow, but I went with Marx Brothers Duck Soup. Got to throw that in there because it holds up after all these years. I just watched it again with the family over the holidays, and it's still funny. It's one of those films where even you could do all the jokes, and all the jokes when they're coming up, and it's still funny 100 years later. So, yeah, throw it in there. Maltese Falcon. I'm a huge noir fan, and I also kind of felt like I needed to throw something old Hollywood in there, and I think it just checks almost all of the boxes for that. And then I'm going to go with Hamnet. I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but I throw it in there because if people have the opportunity to go see it while it's still in the theaters, I highly recommend that they do. I wasn't a longtime Chloe Zhao fan. No Man Land didn't really resonate with me, but Hamnet it's a great film. I mean, it's a very powerful, emotional film. So if you have the opportunity to see it in the theater, I think you should.
Heard that. By the way, should come out around March 27th. There you go. Now you know when the podcast comes out.
Excellent. It's on my calendar. And maybe it'll still be in theaters. I think it's getting, Oscar traction, so it might still be in theaters.
Yeah, I've heard wonderful things about it. And obviously Duck Soup. I remember, you'd be proud of me in high school. My friends and I went to see Maltese Falcon at one of the Revival theaters.
Oh, nice.
Saw one of those. Obviously, it was
film back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so brilliant. It's
Great
so
film.
good.
Yeah.
Honestly, anyway, wonderful film.
Yep.
I'm a Marx Brothers person all the way. They're so smart.
Would you go with Duck Soup is the best? I mean, Night in Casablanca is really good too. Day at the Races is fantastic.
Yeah, honestly, I guess I couldn't pretend to.
They're all kind of
They're all kind of blurred in my head.
Yeah,
Be honest, I can't play favorites, but for the era, I just think they're so brilliant. And like you said, they're timeless.
Yep.
Because it's I mean, honestly, they were really smart people. So it's smart guy. It's not slapstick. It's more
some of it's slapstick. I mean, there are.
Should I
some
mention
visual jokes.
the Three Stooges and just say like that to me is slapstick. I guess I'm pretending that the Marx Brothers, who I heard was right, they were completely uncontrollable and a pain in the ass on set.
Yeah.
Wouldn't follow any rules. But that's because they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, geniuses.
Yep.
Geniuses.
Don't make them like that anymore.
No, they don't.
I mean, really, I mean, comedy is so often of its era, right? Not that much comedy lasts that long. I mean, I guess Airplane will last that long, right? It's just depends. Like if you look at Saturday Night Live or something, it's just so topical and so of its moment now, or for the last 30 years or whatever. It wasn't originally. But how often do you want to go back and look at most of a Saturday Night Live episode? I mean, there's some sketches and skits that'll hold up. The digital shorts usually hold up, but so much of it is political jokes or jokes just talking about what is in the news cycle that day.
Well, even more so, a lot of the humor is just in film too. I mean, I've been embarrassed a few times showing the kid, "Oh, you got to see this movie. It's so funny." And I sit down and watch it with her, and I'm not laughing either. And I'm like, "I swear to you, this was funny 20.
Yeah,
swear to you,
yep.
we would have been laughing our heads off 20 years ago.
Yep.
I don't know why it doesn't hold up." And then Ace Ventura holds up. and it's like, how do you know what's going to hold? Like, you got to preview everything before you show it to your kid so that they don't think you're an idiot? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what makes a joke perennial? Yeah, it's a good question.
I'm sure there's a film studies professor somewhere that could explain it.
That guy's probably not very funny.
No, it couldn't be. All right. Question 2 is an underrated film.
I went with Only God Forgives, the Nickolas Winding Refn film. 41% on Rotten Tomatoes, pretty down there. But I really enjoyed it. It's a highly stylized, but it doesn't have a lot of substance on the surface. But I think it's really because it's kind of an interior film. I think that a lot of it is below the surface, and the way that the film unfolds, if you give it a chance beyond the extreme stylization of it, I think it's a really good film. And I think one of the reasons why it was panned is because everybody was expecting it to be Drive, and it's not Drive. So if you don't look at it through the lens of wanting it to be Drive, even though it's starring the same actor and came out right after it from the same writer director, look at it on its own terms. Give it another chance.
That's the director that did Too Old to Die Young?
Yeah.
Which I thought was genius. Oh my God. Okay. I didn't even know I haven't seen Only God Forgives. I will grab my phone and add it to the list for my wife and I to watch as soon as we stop recording. All right. This will be fun. You get to name a film you feel is overrated.
Okay. So I've got a cute answer and then a real answer. So my cute answer is going to be Fritz the Cat, the Ralph Bakshi film, first animated film that was ever rated X by the MPAA. And I'm saying it's overrated because it was rated X, and it doesn't deserve to have an X rating because it isn't pornographic. It has some extreme violence. I think it's a great film. I'm not saying truthfully that it's overrated. It even played at Cannes in 1972. And then I guess it's important to talk about what the X rating meant back in the 70s too, when it first came out. It didn't necessarily mean pornographic.
Yeah, Midnight Cowboy and
yeah.
What else? I'm blinking on another one.
A lot of them from that era had it, and it just could be extreme adult situations without falling into pornography or extremely violence, which is another reason why a lot of them got that X rating. So now they would probably be NC-17, right? And throwing that out to be an X rating.
Which was a great idea. And I believe the first NC-17 film of all time is one of my top ones of all time.
Oh, this is on the tip of my tongue.
I think it was The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover.
Could be. Great film.
I love that film. And I remember, I think it was the first NC-17. I think.
I'd buy that. It was
and I thought it was
era.
heralding a new era of we could have mature shit come out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then NC-17 became just like smut, like everything else.
Yeah.
We're in a very immature culture.
Yeah, that's a great film. I've got to see it. It's been a while. So my real answer is any superhero film, all overrated. And the reason why I put it on there is, and we sort of already talked about the AI thing, but so much of these superhero films are really based on spectacle. And where does that go when any kid with an iPhone can make the same level of graphics in their basement, right? So maybe superhero films will mature because of that, but I don't know.
They seem to, but yeah, Lord knows I just can't get into them. I did briefly, and obviously it was Marvel did something interesting for a little while.
Yeah,
but you know, it's just too predictable.
Yep, formulaic. And
So
I don't want to just sit here and diss on superhero films because there are some fun ones out there. Don't get me wrong. But if we were going to talk about a genre of being overrated, I would say it would be that. And I'm interested in what happens next, right? When the graphics of Iron Man flying are ubiquitous, where does the genre go?
And it's pretty revealing that they have to keep rebooting and redoing the origin story, because the origin story is the only story.
Yeah.
The origin story is the story, and then everything else is, hey, here's good guy, here's bad guy. Bad guy almost wins, good guy triumphs.
Yeah.
Like you just can't break the rule. My joke with everyone is that if the second to last Marvel Thanos story, when he snaps and kills half of the life in the universe, that's the perfect ending. Stop there. Don't show the next one.
I didn't see that one. I'm
Good,
lost.
good. Well, needless to say, that was the ending. It was a down ending, and the bad guy won. The villain won. And I was like, oh, just stop now.
But then they put another ending on
and then
it.
they did a whole bullshit way to try to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
They just like did a million timelines and went back in time.
Yeah,
and
they say it's time travel. Yeah.
Just nonsense to try to. It was perfect. It was perfect. Just let half the people in the world die. That's what you missed. That's what you missed by avoiding. You got 21 films at once right there.
Yep, there it is. Don't have to see any of them now.
No, you don't. And, we had a tween at the time, so she wanted to binge them.
Sure.
I was game to binge them.
There's a time and a place for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to totally diss on them.
Oh no, I got a little weepy whenever I took the kid to Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel. They made what was the woman? The Brie Larson character? Was she Captain Marvel? I think she might have been. Anyway, here I am talking to the guy who doesn't care for the genre at all. All right.
Lesser known. I went with Vampiros Lesbos, which is a 1971 Jesse or Jesus Franco film. If you don't know who he was, he is credited with 204 films as a director, and he made exploitation films in the 60s and the 70s, probably even into the 90s. Vampiros Lesbos is my favorite. It is basically the story of Dracula retold with a lesbian vampire, and they're all completely dubbed. Like, all the actors spoke different languages. I think it's a co-production between Spain, Germany, and Turkey. It's primarily shot in Turkey, but it is very, very strange. And the first few times I saw it, I marveled at it because it had such bold choices. It seems like he just cuts away to these random things, like a kite or a scorpion walking on the sand. And I had heard that one of the reasons why he was such a prolific filmmaker is because he would just use footage that he'd shot for other things in other projects, just take snippets of it and cut it in. But after watching this film a number of times, and now I watch it every Halloween, so I've probably seen it 10 times, maybe 15 times even. It's a great soundtrack. There is actually a logic and a reason to these inserts and cutaways that he puts into it. I'm not going to tell anybody what it is, but after you watch it a few times and get over the spectacle of it, it's really a great film.
Excellent.
Bold filmmaking.
Yeah, it sounds
was around that era of like the spaghetti western, but like the horror
Yeah, you could look at
version
it
of the
that way.
spaghetti western.
Yeah.
Anyway. I mean, just made me think of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely parallels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stylized in a completely different way.
Yeah.
But
it was
there are
people in Europe
parallels.
doing creative things.
Yeah.
With genres that we were beating to death.
Correct. Yes, that is a good way to look at it.
Is that a good way to
Yep.
put it? Was that not a proud American enough moment?
But you really hate Hollywood, don't you?
Every once in a while Hollywood gives us something wonderful.
That's true.
And I'll add to with the Hamnet thing.
Yeah.
One of the people that we've worked with, an alumni with the festival, went to NYU with Chloe Zhao.
Oh, yeah.
And said everything she's done has been brilliant, and then didn't like Nomadland.
Yeah.
And said, trust me, like her other work is so good. I'm not knocking Zoe at all. Zoe's wonderful, but Nomadland was just didn't interest.
Well,
her.
I didn't see Eternals, which is her her Marvel film, and I hadn't seen anything before No Man Land, so I will actually look for it and try to check out some of her earlier stuff.
hear
now after having seen Hamnet and liking it so much.
Yeah, and she's good for her.
Yeah,
Wonderful. All right, well, I will do the quick wrap up, which is, if you want, we'll put your website as a clickable link in the show notes. We won't have to make your Instagram a clickable link in the show notes, although it was last time, 4 years ago.
Wow.
Well, 3.5.
the world has changed.
The world that we have changed.
Yeah.
Well, that was before. That was when you went to Instagram, everything in your feed was people you knew.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't algorithmically amplified to put ads and stranger shit in front of us.
The last time I did go onto Instagram, I counted, and I don't remember what the count was, how many clips or whatever they are before it was actually somebody that I knew. Now, it was people that I followed, like, celebrities or filmmakers or artists or whatever, more so than ads. But still, it was like 40 or 50 before I saw a post from somebody that I actually know.
Right? I mean, I still remember Facebook joking at a high school reunion that, do we need a reunion? Because now we're all friends on Facebook and I know what you're all up to. And, dare I say it, by 40th, it's my 40th reunion this June.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking just now, not just because I've quit social media, but like, I don't know what anyone's doing now because you don't see what people are doing, like maybe a few of them.
Yeah.
But it's really just.
But it'll be exciting when you do hear their stories.
Yeah. So maybe our 40th reunion will be good.
Yeah.
And I won't make fun of myself for being old. All right. So clickable links in the show notes. And very quickly, thank you, Nick.
My
for
pleasure.
Being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for a great festival.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for the award.
Yeah.
And the trophy.
Yes. Oh, thank you for saying that because it was supposed to be on the table and it's not. I'm glad you're not going to leave without it. Holy crap. I would have had to deliver it to you personally. All right. So if you are listening still, go to discoverindiefilm.com to learn all about this podcast and things that have grown out of it. On social media, it's always at DIFWins, as aforementioned. I don't check social media anymore, but my wonderful podcast producer, Karina, does. And my understanding is she responds too. It's always funny to me when like someone sends an email and goes, "Oh, thank you for liking my stuff on, or sharing the stuff on social media." And I always think, "Oh, thank God, Karina kicks ass."
Thanks, Karina.
Because it has given me the freedom of having my life back. I quit social media in 4 days. It wasn't part of the plan. 4 days later, I picked up a book that had been on my nightstand for
That's what it's all
couple years.
about. Yeah.
My brain was like, "Why don't you read that book?" I was like, "Oh, we can do that now."
Have you been reading a book and trying to click on a word you don't know for the definition to pop up? I've done it. I've actually done it.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
I haven't done it, but I actually did switch at some point. I did switch to a Kindle.
I do both.
But that was a book that someone had loaned me. Wonderful damn book.
What's
The Book of Form and Emptiness.
Oh, I don't know.
By, I think it was, I can't name the name now because I was about to say the name of a Japanese filmmaker I spoke to recently. It's Ruth Ozaki, I think.
Oh.
I think I might be right. And if I'm wrong, I just sounded really white. But anyway, so that's discoverindiefilm.com and at DIF Wins for social media. If you go to discoverindiefilm.org, that is a nonprofit for the arts that runs 2 festivals in the Los Angeles area. Both are ranked in the top 100 best reviewed.
Yeah.
Worldwide out of 14,000 film festivals, according to Film Freeway users. So very proud of that. That's Sherman Oaks Film Festival every December, and Film Invasion Los Angeles every June. And those sister festivals, I call them, they had a cousin born at the beginning of 2026 in South America when Film Invasion Lima happened. Thank you, Pilar and Chevy, for running Film Invasion Lima. I will share. Someone sent an email saying, I just had the best festival experience of my life at Film Invasion Lima.
Awesome.
One of the people who was there in Lima, he was, I don't know if he was Peruvian or just lived in South America, but some people flew actually from the States.
Wow.
And I was like, oh man, thank God the team down there. Amazing. Well, I mean, I wouldn't have partnered with people who don't love indie film like I do, but you know, it was just wonderful to hear. So don't snooze on Film Invasion Lima, people. All right. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye.